Yeah, there.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello.
Hey, Jason Saulnier here. How's it going?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So, Daniel Ekeroth here, author. What are you working on these days?
Well, nothing too hard. and Got some ideas, but mainly doing articles for Sweden Rock Magazine and writing songs for my band.
So, what do you think of the music scene in 2012? Certainly in the heavy side of things.
I love the new Swedish death metal scene. It's a lot of great bands and also some new good heavy metal bands from Sweden as well, like In Solitude and Ghost. So I think it's a really good time for Swedish bands right now. I'm really happy.
Now, let's say with a book like Swedish Death Metal that you wrote, it's quite big. How long did it take you to write that book?
I think the process in writing it was like 5 years, and then I was a bit blessed since I grew up with it, so I had a lot of information I already knew. So it might have taken even longer if I would have tackled something else, like I don't know, German thrash metal or something like that.
Now, let's say a book like that, still discovering it, because I mean, the internet and the world is quite big.
Yeah, I guess it keeps on selling about at the same rate still. So I think it's going pretty well, and I think death metal is kind of having some kind of revival. People are discovering it again. With, I mean, a band like Autopsy coming back. I, yeah, time is right, I guess. Again.
For sure. Now, Daniel, the legacy of Bathory. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's your story with Bathory, and what you know about it?
Oh, Bathory. I don't know if anybody really knows about Bathory because they were different. I was fortunate enough that I discovered Bathory when I turned a teenager, so I kind of grew up with Bathory. All my teenage years was surrounded by Bathory in some way or another. And a friend, I lived in a very small town when I grew up, and it was just me and one of my friends. We were the only ones into extreme metal, and he was the one who found that first Bathory album. And that was, like Venom, but better, in our opinion. But the thing with Bathory was they seemed strange. Nobody knew anything about Bathory, and they were from Sweden, but we didn't know. I mean, there was no interviews, no information. We didn't know anything about them. They just seemed scarier and stranger than Venom or Merciful Fate or Sodom or any of those bands, because you knew Sodom, they were a bunch of beer-drinking hellraisers from Germany. Venom was a bunch of thugs from the UK, and Merciful Fate was a bunch of skilled Danish musicians. But what the hell was Bathory? And I, still to this day, I don't know, and I don't know anyone who really knows about Bathory. And I think Quorthon, he died at the moment before he started to explain everything that went on with Bathory. So the mystery will always be there, I guess, now.
So, in a sense, there's nothing left at all, in secrecy, like that he'd leave, like say, here's the lifeline of Bathory, all the info you need. Nothing like that's ever been discovered.
No, I mean you can piece it together, and I mean people have made interviews with his father and his sister, but they don't really have a clue what Bathory was all about, because I guess they were not into the music as well. And I met Jonas Åkerlund, who was a drummer of the first Bathory album, at the Devil's Blood concert, and he told me what he knew. I mean, just revelations to hear somebody was there, and I think now it's impossible to piece it together what really went on.
Now, this drummer, band member, did he have any knowledge in Bathory? or was he like brought in secretly to play all this stuff?
No, I think it was like a kind of band. He's very famous now because he makes videos for Lady Gaga and Metallica. I think at that point with the first album it was more like a band, but then it's transformed into this one-man project basically, who is just recorded the most insane music around at that time. And I think Bathory was, to me, they were the most extreme band in the mid '80s, and they are really the band that invented black metal. I mean, Venom and Merciful Fate, they are something else. They are not the kind of black metal we speak of today. I mean, that was invented by Bathory.
Now, did you follow Bathory throughout the whole career, like from '84 to the 2000s?
No, I can't say that. I think '84 to '91 or something like that, because after Twilight of the Gods, I think the impact was lost, because all the death metal and the Norwegian black metal and all kinds of other stuff going on, and they kind of went into doing something else. I think Quorthon was fed up with it. He had already done it, and no one else could do it as well. So I heard those albums, albums like Octagon and those, just one time, and then I said, it's okay, but it's nothing groundbreaking anymore. So.
Like, just to give you an example, in Canada in general, the album that would have surfaced from Bathory would have been the '85 The Return album. That's the album that, with Combat Records would have distributed a little bit. That's the one I have, and you can't find anything else, basically.
Oh, here you can find everything, but I thought actually that Bathory was from Canada when I first heard them, because they sounded so strange, and I think the strangest country I could think of was Canada, because they had, Voivod and Slaughter and Razor, and I mean, to me it seemed like, Bathory, of course they're from Canada as well. So I was really surprised when it turned out to be from Sweden. But then I was very young then, so I didn't realize anything was going on.
Now, Daniel, do you think, let's say with a company like Combat Records, if you could go into that and find out if they know anything about Bathory at all, would that be possible?
I don't know. I think there is a book out in Sweden now called Blood, Fire, Death in Swedish, and there's a chapter about Bathory in that one where they've interviewed his friends and his family. I think that is the closest thing to the real story we have. So that would be, probably someone should translate that into English so people can. I think that's the most revealing thing I've ever read. I don't know if the people at the the record labels like Combat, I don't think they know anything.
Now, let's say the people that are mentioned, like the former members, let's say they're just using like brief names. Is this possibly Quorthon again, or is it actual people that's just anonymous playing on these albums?
There were some people involved, I know, but I think under the sign of the Black Mark, I think it was just him, and the Return also. Maybe it was just him. The first album was a band, and then Blood, Fire, Death, some other guys was involved. For the most part, he was alone.
Let's say you're familiar with the Wikipedia list. It puts known former members, and it lists, quite a bit of people. What do you think of that list?
Well, I've not seen that one, but I know that Quorthon himself invented all kinds of names in interviews, the few interviews he made, and he was just taking the piss and having a good time. And he used many of the names that he had used abroad is actually the names of very Swedish, Swedish folk singers, stuff like that, which been recycled as, this is his real name. And So it's I guess his sense of humor makes it even more difficult to get behind, get into the truth behind this strange band.
And then, in a sense, all these names might just be him and himself, and people, imagine that there's actually other people, and there isn't.
Yeah, you never know.
And this guessing game will be playing for a long time.
I hope forever. I mean, some bands are meant to be shrouded in mystery, and I think Bathory is a perfect example.
Now, to finish off, let's say in 500 years from now, where do you see Bathory in the history books of metal?
Well, it's hard to tell, but the first ones, I think they're gonna get. I mean, when they speak about black metal, then I hope they have forgot all about this Norwegian thing, which to me is not as important, and remember Bathory as the band who invented, this kind of music that has been called black metal since then. Alongside, I mean, bands like Venom and Merciful Fate, they're great, but the one who took the steps musically was Bathory, and in so many ways that chord progressions and the atmospheric sound, that was, I guess, all of that was just a mistake when Quorthon made the albums, but he didn't have much experience with studios or any actual talent as a musician. It just turned out that way because that was the best he could do, and in the process they created this eerie sound and just possessed the demonic feeling to it all. And I hope that Bathory will be the band that is talked about in the future. That was the real deal. This was the invention of something new.
Very well said. And I'm sure they'll be ranked high up there. Well, Daniel, been a pleasure talking to you about this black metal and all the stuff that you've done in this scene with writing and stuff. It's very great.
Oh, thank you very much. Take care and all the best.